Yes, it's very exciting. Michael is actually one of my favourite preachers. Don't tell my husband Dan that, but he's very, very gifted. Michael is a leader. He works as a principal, a deputy principal, doing all sorts of things out at Carmichael College out there. He has led teams before. He manages people. He is also chairman of the board of our group of elders here at church. Which is basically just like a crew of our representatives that decide which way our church goes, and he is the chairperson of that. He leads our team well. He is a dad of 4 wonderful boys and husband to the beautiful Beck, and we're very privileged to have him come and speak this morning. Michael, you are gifted in the way of managing people, managing teams, and we're excited. We're excited for what you have to share with us this morning. Can I pray for you while you recover? Is that okay? Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this man. We thank you for the way that he leads, and we thank you for the gift that he is to our church community. Thank you for the way that, him and Beck have been here from the very grassroots in the beginning of this church, God. And thank you for the way that he stewards his gifts so well. We're excited to hear what your Spirit has to say through him today. So would you speak to us? Would we have open hearts? And would you bless him in the process? Amen. Thank you.
Thanks, Steph. All right. I feel so much pressure all of a sudden. That'll do. Yeah, God is good, the end. How about that? Yeah, wowzers. Unfortunately, I've been given a topic I have to talk about, so you're going to have to put up with me for a little while. But I'm still just coming to terms with how nice that was. That was lovely. In church world, we do this thing called series. It's weird. I mean, why do we do this? It means that each week we're kind of covering a different bit of a topic. This is week 2. If you weren't here last week, I would encourage you to go and listen to Jason Coleman's message. It's the funniest he has ever been. I think we would all of us who are here, you would agree. He was really excellent. He was so good. And he began this series that's called Reassembly Required, about repairing broken relationships. And I am a relationship expert. So you're very lucky to have me today. Yes. Yeah. It all began for me back in year 5. I went to Blaxland East Primary School in New South Wales, and we had our ski trip to Perisher. You know, ever do the year 5 kind of first time to the snow thing? And back then, I hadn't yet met my wife Beck. There was another girl that I thought was pretty all right back in year 5. Her name was Libby. And we had dorms, and like in the dorms, I was us boys, and I was kind of confessing that I thought this girl was pretty all right, and asking for some relationship advice. And Gareth, he was the resident kind of ladies' man at our school, so he had lots of advice for me. And so I said, well, how do I tell her that I like her? And his advice was excellent. He said, just go and kiss her. So. Now, I'd never kissed a girl before, so I didn't quite know what to do with that advice. What I'd seen on television was it seemed like when they kiss, like they didn't get stuck to each other, right? It seemed like there was movement, right? So I thought, well, therefore, to make that work right, you would need to have wet lips. So it was the next day, and kind of Libby was kind of sitting on these stairs in this kind of weird amphitheatre thing over here, and I was kind of looking at her thinking, all right, now's the time. Okay, here we go. Let's just try to start doing these ones. Thinking that's what I'm supposed to do. Getting them as wet as they were really dry too, because I was quite nervous, so I had to do quite a lot. And then I walk over to her thinking, okay, here's my moment. Like, all right. Because this is the thing, right? Like men, if you want to pick up, you got to make the first move, right? So I'm going to make the first. All right, so we come over. So, hey, Livy, I want to tell you something. By now, my lips are starting to get dry again already, but I'm just too nervous to start licking them in front of her. And I think, okay, now's my moment. Gareth told me, and he'd had heaps of girlfriends, so he obviously knew what works. And so, Livy comes over, and I lean over. I just couldn't do it. And so I said that one of the silliest things I've ever said. I made it up. I just made up something. I just said, Gareth has a crush on you. And then she kind of walked away laughing to her friends, and that was that. So there you go. I'm very good at relationships, as you can well tell. And that's the thing with relationships, right? Is in a way, the beginning part of the relationship in some ways is the easy part. Like, at least you just kind of get things going, and if it works, it works, and off you go on your merry way. But if at some point the relationships hit some troubled times, that's where really it's even harder to get good advice. In the dorm in Year 5 camp, there was advice about how to start a relationship. These guys had no idea how to keep one going. Gareth had been going through them for many years. Like, it was just not a thing to be able to figure out how do we fix things up when things are broken along the way. I remember I once had this coffee machine, and the coffee machine stopped working. And I opened this guide. It's called the Troubleshooting Guide. And the trouble that the guide was shooting was never the trouble that I seemed to be having, right? And I just read a book about fixing stuff, about how men have a go. So I thought, I'll have a go. I'll have a go at fixing the coffee machine. This was a bad idea. So I was at school, strangely enough, so I had a spare period. It was our staff room coffee machine. So I pulled the back off the coffee machine so I could see all the bits in the coffee machine. And I thought, it'll be safe. So I plugged it in and just turned it on just to see what was happening out the back so I could figure out where the problem was. I thought that's logical, right? So I just turn it on and, I think something there's the problem. So I get a knife to undo it. Didn't unplug it. I felt what electrocution feels like. Ben Richards is just looking at me like, you idiot right now. It's like, I don't know if you've ever had it, but it's like a steel rod just goes up your arm. And everything goes really tense. It was so strange. So then I threw the coffee machine out because I figured, this is beyond me. I took a video of actually throwing the coffee machine because I thought it would splatter into 1,000 pieces. It was the most lame video ever. Just hit and just fell over. It's built like a brick. So fixing coffee machines, starting a coffee machine, easy. Like, we can go open the guide, figure out what to do, the thing's going, but as soon as it breaks, as soon as the test now becomes what do we do when it's not working, the answers aren't quite so easy. And one of our go-to places in this regard, I've got a buzz going on. I reckon it's the bass amp. Am I right? No, it's coming from that direction. Oh, well, it's got to be a foldback or something. Can't do anything about that one. What we often will do when we have a relationship breaking down is we'll turn to a pathway that we think will work, right? Because typically when a relationship is broken down, when something's not going quite how we think it is, our natural response is that we need to get things back on the right track. We need to get things back to the right way. And always when we think that, logically the right way would happen to be our way. And so if we can just happen to get the person we're having an issue with to get back on our way, then things will get on the right way and things will go back to good. And the method that Jason talked about last week that we often will use to get people from their way to our way, which is the right way to a better way, we use this thing called the C4 approach to relationship management, where we convince, we convict, we coerce, and we control. It's founded on this whole idea that if they can just bring this person over to my point of view, then everything will be all right. And I'm pretty good at those, actually. Prior to my deputy principal role I'm currently working, I was working for a peak organisation. And part of that role was to advocate for schools. So I'd sit on these government committees who had stupid ideas about what to do next to help education in our country, and I'd try and get across my suggestions about how they should probably not do these things. I remember this one time, they released a paper on red tape and how schools have way too much red tape to deal with. Anyone who's a teacher here, you'd all like, yes, there is way too much red tape in teaching, right? And so we're sitting in there and they're presenting the report, and at the end it has the recommendations that this report suggests they should do to deal with red tape in schools. Now I like government as a general principle. I'm a pro-government human being, right? This report was started in 2013. It was released in 2021. And the report found its main recommendation that was we should conduct an inquiry into how to reduce red tape. So I sat in the meeting and I explained how that was the dumbest report I've ever heard in my entire life. And does anyone see the irony and of how much red tape it must have taken to create the red tape report that says we need to go and do some more red tape to find it. Like, oh my goodness. And everyone in the room's like, yeah, it is kind of dumb. Yeah, and didn't do anything about it. You can find the report on the AITSA website. It's there for you to see. It's hilarious. Anyway, I was the thing I used to do all the time, but it turns out that using your ability to convince people in a broken relationship situation doesn't tend to repair the relationship. It might make you right, but it may come at the cost of the relationship itself. See, the reality is, when someone is trying to convince you, convict you, coerce you, and control you, it doesn't feel like the relationship is being repaired. Being on the other end of C4 ends up just feeling like rejection. It ends up feeling, there's this word we use in government speak, we call adversarial, where you are positioning yourself as opposite another person and you're in a bit of a battle to see who's going to win. And the reality is that rejection is toxic to relationships. The natural inclination of our heart is to try and convince people to our way because our way is the good way, because that's why we're doing it our way. We're doing it our way because we think it's the right way. No one's doing your way because you think this is the worst way, this is a terrible way, no one should do it this way. You're doing it your way because you think that's the right way, and you think if everyone else got on the right way with me, then maybe that will lead to a better way. But actually, when you put that across to someone that you're in relationship, that feels like rejection, and rejection is toxic to relationships. And so we all get it, right? The C4 kind of way is not the way. That's the list of the do nots. But we want it to be better than that, don't we? Like, that's not what we actually want the relationship. I remember when my wife, when we had our kids were quite young, maybe other mums in the room can identify with this too, she would say that she could only ever be as happy as her saddest child. I don't know if you've ever heard that, had that idea in your head. And I think that in regards to our relationships, how well your relationships are going does kind of act as a bit of a ceiling on how happy you actually are, or how happy you can actually be. It's like you can't quite get to that next level because there's this broken relationship there that's stopping you go higher. It's like no counsellor ever sits down with their client and says, oh, look, it's your happy and functional relationships that's the cause of all your troubles. No counsellor says that, right? No one says you've had two healthier relationships, that's why you're having so much trouble. No. The unhealthy relationships, the unhappy relationships so often lead to other big difficulties in your life. We know this, we want better relationships. So if this doesn't work, the logical question is, well, what might? What's another way? I'm just going to do a little bit of a quick apologetic thing, an apologetic in a theologian sense, which doesn't mean apology at all. It actually means giving an explanation for why God might exist. And I want to apply that then to relationships. Bear with me. I think it's good. So there was this guy, right? His name was Thomas Aquinas. He was a smart dude, 13th century. He was a friar. He was a writer. He was a philosopher. And he posited that there has to be something that caused everything else. And here's the logic, right? Okay, so here is all the stuff that we have right now. Something must have caused that. And that thing that caused that, something must have caused that. And whatever caused that, something must have caused that. And we can keep going until infinity, or we can suggest that at some point there was an uncaused cause. There was a first mover, something that started everything in motion. Because the alternative is that it's an eternity of causes. And Thomas Aquinas would say that there has to be, logically, there has to be a first, a thing that started all things. And that thing would be God. What I want to suggest for you today is just like God is the first mover in creation, our role as Christians when it comes to repairing broken relationships is to be first movers. To be the one who takes this first step. Because God did that for us, right? I mean, he did it to create us. But then he did that to recreate a relationship with us as well. God moved first towards us. And so too should we therefore move first towards those with whom we need to reconcile. So I'm going to read a chunk of the Bible. I'm going to reflect on that a little bit. And then hopefully something today will land for you as you think through, there's this relationship I've got that's putting a cap on how happy I can be. And if I want to start doing something about that, what would my first move look like? What would my next move look like? This is from Romans 12. It's written by a guy named Paul, probably the most influential writer ever. It's called Romans because it was written to people in Rome, but it was always written with the intention of copying and sharing. And people keep reading it even today and find stuff of value in it. I hope that you find some value in this. Here we go. He says, therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, and here's that little idea we had a moment ago, in view of God's mercy. In other words, in the same way that God has done these things for you, given what God is like for you, in view of that, therefore, it says, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. It's a strange term, but really what it just means is don't kill yourself. Like, it's not offer yourself as a sacrifice that's dead on the altar. No. It's saying, as your act of worship, make your life be a sacrifice, a gift that you are giving over. Just make your life a sacrifice. Make your life something that you're giving to God in light of what he's done for you, holy and pleasing to God, which just means good and set apart for God, and that this is your true and proper act of worship. This is your way of showing that God is your God, that you are following him. So therefore, because of what God did when he first moved to create us and then first moved to make a relationship with us, in view of that, offer ourselves as a living sacrifice, and then it explains how. Here's the how. It says this. It's verse 14, that second paragraph there, in case you wanted to look on your Bible. It says this, bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. The other day I went to another school just for a professional development visit. It was excellent, actually. Up the coast, a long way, long drive. And the principal at that school had turned the school around, which is always impressive, to go from a school in disaster zone to a school going really well. The school was going really, really badly. So when he first started, it had gone from the beginning of that year of 150 students to when he signed the contract, it had gone down to 90 students. So 60 kids had left. After he signed the contract, he arrived at the school 3 weeks later, it had gone down to 70 students. And the reality was that the reason that school was going to the toilet was poor leadership. It really was. And we got to hear this guy's story as he turned the school around. It's got 250 kids now. That's a huge turnaround in less than 3 years. Some phenomenal story. He's done an incredible job. But what we as a group loved the most was this principal guy never once mentioned the names of those who had driven the school into the ground, just about. We all knew. But there's something about him and his character that made us go, wow, this is a decent guy that at that moment had the opportunity to throw some dirt on those who probably deserved a bit of dirt thrown on them. And instead he just said, no leader in the past ever made a decision with the intention of hurting this place. And we must honour that they did the best they could at the time. And he never mentioned their name either. Doesn't that just make that person is bigger in your eyes for hearing them doing that, right? Like you hear people that do those sorts of things, man, that's a good person right there. This is what that's asking of you. It says, bless those who persecute you. It means speak highly of people who have hurt you. The first move to repairing a broken relationship, perhaps for you, might be to stop speaking poorly about these people. Then it gives a bit of more information about what does that look like? What does bless mean? It's a strange word. So here's a couple of examples, I think. It says, rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. One of my friends, he's passed away now. His name was Mark. He helped actually found this church. Actually, basically did found the church, let's be honest. One thing I loved about Mark is he was always so for me. And anyone who's a good mate of Mark's would or have probably felt similar stories with him at some point, where they just felt like 100% with you all the way through. So, for example, the day we bought a house, I could text Mark and he would be so excited for me. The day I got a promotion, he would be one of the first people to come up to me and say, "Congratulations, well done, I'm so proud of you." You know a true friend when they're genuinely happy for you when you have happy moments? You know someone who's not really a true friend when you have happy moments and they're not really happy for you? When they start thinking, that should have happened to me? Or where were you when I had my happy moment? When they start thinking of all the things about how when I was rejoicing, you weren't rejoicing with me. Or they might be thinking, when you're rejoicing, I'm feeling more about myself right now and how I'm not rejoicing. So that doesn't seem fair. Like when you look at, there's this thing, right? We do this thing in the world today where we carefully construct an image of our life and we publicise it for all to see, and it's called Instagram, right? And I'm sure you've done it where you're looking at what someone has done on their weekend and you don't rejoice with those who rejoice and think, wow, how good it was that you had a great weekend. You think, I had a rubbish weekend. I'm annoyed with you now for having had a better weekend than I had. That's not the Jesus way. Jesus' way says, rejoice with those who rejoice. It actually says, rejoice with those who persecute you. The people you dislike the most is saying, rejoice with them and mourn with them, which is harder. Again, I mean, my wife and I, you've probably seen us around the church. We've got a child in a wheelchair. He's got all sorts of health stuff going on, and some days are bad days. Some days health stuff happens, and it's just hard, and we have to grieve. And one thing I love about my friends in this church, is they grieve with me. They grieve with us. They'll be praying with us. They'll send us a meal. They'll ask how I'm going. You know a true friend, when they grieve with you, they don't have to feel the depth of your grief. It doesn't have to be an equally weighted grief for it to be the same. It's just giving a little bit of it with you. You know they're with you. We do this in our elders meetings quite regularly too. When we meet as a church, people get to talk a bit about their life, and we grieve with each other when bad stuff happens. And you know that's someone who's with you when they're able to grieve with you. It says, mourn with those who mourn. But when it's someone who persecutes us, don't we want to do it the other way around? We want to rejoice when they mourn. When something's going wrong for them, sometimes we start thinking, you finally got what you deserved. You made your own bed. These are phrases I've used before. They started themselves on a pathway and that's where it ended up, so that's just how it is. It's feeling a bit uncomfortable, isn't it? Like, Michael, are you saying I have to take responsibility? No, well, technically Paul is saying it, actually. Paul is saying, bless those who persecute you, rejoice with those who rejoice, even if you don't want to. He says, mourn with those who mourn, even when you want to rejoice when they mourn, and even when you mourn when they're rejoicing. It's saying, no, you stick on message here. It says, do not repay anyone with evil for evil, like it's some contest of measurement. This great ruler in the sky where we've got to make sure it's perfectly balanced, and if you've done that much, I'm going to do equally. No, it's no repaying of it's not a revenge game here. It's not about getting back at them. It's about getting back to them. And in this last sentence in that paragraph, it says, be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. And I love that, just that simple word there, careful. Because we can be so careless with people we're fighting with, can't we? We can put ourselves at the Christmas party, put ourselves in a conversation, and then our mouth just goes off, and we were not careful. We were careless. And it says, not what's right for you. That's such an us world, isn't it? Like today, if you were to go on Instagram and look up inspo, right, and just find quotes about what you should do with your life, what it would say is do things that's right by you. If it feels right, do that. If it doesn't feel right, don't do that. your complete kind of moral compass has to first be filtered through the what's right for you lens. But this doesn't say that. It goes so much higher than that. It says, no, not the right by you lens. You've got to go by the right by everyone lens. As though there's a right that is bigger and more than what you think. That's what you're aiming for. That's the right you are trying to pursue here. When you were to tell the story of what you said and what you did with this person with whom you are not having the relationship you want, it should be of such a high quality what you have chosen to do that everyone says you did what was right. Whew, that's a high bar, isn't it? That's a high bar. And then it wraps up with this statement I think I want you to take with you today. Because this is the part that I think is the practical one that we can use. Because that middle bit there, that's perfection that it's describing, right? But then the next sentence, I think at least brings it back to realist, to the actual world. It says, if it is possible, in your relationships with one another, when one has broken down, you are allowed to ask yourself if it is possible. There are some relationships that have broken down where it is not possible for reconciliation to take place. And sometimes it's not possible because they've passed away. Sometimes it's not possible because criminal acts have been done. They're real things. But if it is possible, and here's the phrase, this is the line you take in the car home today, right? As far as it depends on you. Be it live at peace with everyone. Not live at peace with everyone, full stop. It's as far as it depends on you. Live at peace with everyone. How far is that? Some of us are asking. I saw this picture last night. I thought it was a good one to show. It's of the Harbour Bridge being built. When I shared this idea with another guy once, and he said to me, it's a bit like the Harbour Bridge, because he told me this story about how both sides were built at the same time, and then eventually they met in the middle, right? And so as far as depends on you then is about getting to halfway and then letting them come the rest. And I reflected on that. I thought it was right for a while, but I've actually decided it's wrong. That's actually the wrong image. That's not what this is like. As far as depends on you is not 50%. So as far as depends on you is forgiveness at a distance, isn't it? And what's forgiveness at a distance? We're back to adversarialism, aren't we? It's back on me on your side, and me on my side, and you on your side. And I'll come this way, but I'm not coming any further. That's still there. It's not like the Harbour Bridge. See, this is what forgiveness looks like. If Christianity was just forgiveness, then that would be a weird religion. Because forgiveness isn't the end. Forgiveness isn't reconciliation. Forgiveness is an opportunity for reconciliation. Don't fool yourself into thinking that the relationship is restored if you forgive and wait. That is not a restored relationship. Forgiveness and wait is just still a cliff between you and them. As far as depends on you is not 50%. As far as depends on you is not meeting halfway and then waiting for them to come the other rest of the way. It's not a calculation of balance. It's not rejoice with those who rejoice in equal measure. That's not the right metaphor. So I was trying to think, what's a better metaphor? And this is what I came up with. I was in Mackay about a year ago, just driving back to the airport after visiting a school. And the beach line was miles out. It might have even been beach, I don't know. But as I was driving past, I saw this, and there was this cool pathway. And I thought, that's a cool pathway. I'm going to take a photo of that, put that on Instagram so people think my life's amazing. So I took a photo of the pathway, and I went and found it yesterday and quickly put it onto the PowerPoint slides. So I thought, I think that's actually what it's supposed to be like. That as far as depends on you is not about meeting halfway. It's about walking a path that makes it easier for the other person to walk behind you. Because someone walked that path first once, and then another person did, and then another person did, and eventually there's a pathway formed, and it's now easy to walk that path. So I think what as far as depends on you is about the bravery to be the leader in the restoration of the relationship, and leaders go first. So just like when I had a crush on Libby, I wanted to go first because that's what blokes are supposed to do, and I totally messed it up. But leading is about going first a lot of the time, and if we want to lead towards reconciliation, we can't promise the destination. We talked about that last week, but we can lead towards it. And that's like walking a path and being brave enough to do it first. I don't know if you've heard Simon Sinek, a bit of a leadership guru. Rate his stuff, to be honest. This is what he says. He says, leaders are the ones who have the courage to go first, to put themselves at personal risk to open a path for others to follow. And he's not at all talking here about reconciliation. He's talking about leadership, but I think that is actually the message that we need to be taking away about what is as far as depends on you looks like. As far as depends on you means I will make the first move. As far as depends on me says I will be brave enough to take the next step. John Maxwell has a way of saying it as well, another leadership guy. He says, leadership is being willing to go first. It's the cost shift, moving from the perks of leadership to the price of leadership. If you're a leader or desire to become one, you must always be willing, ready, and committed to go first. You must be willing to pay the price of example if you want others to follow your lead. The goal isn't reconciliation, though. I can't promise you that by walking that pathway, you'll both get to the beach and be able to enjoy the view together. The goal isn't reconciliation. I can't promise you that by walking that pathway, you'll both get to the beach and be able to enjoy the view together. But you can do your part. You can get to your distance. You can start that road, make it easier for someone to follow by being the one brave enough to walk first. So what does that mean? It means not, and we talked about this last week, it's not that reconciliation is the goal. The goal is no regrets. The goal is that you don't get the call one day that you'll never get to talk to them again, and you'll think, why did I leave that thing unsaid? The goal is to be the one who made the first move and the second move and continue making first moves as far as you were able. You can't guarantee reconciliation, but you can go first. Be the one who took revenge off the table. Be the one who's more broken-hearted that the relationship is broken than you are angry at them. We're going to sing a song in a moment. I might invite the piano guy, wherever you are. There we go, awesome. And we're going to sing a song called How Good the Lord Is. I just found out when I was looking at the lyrics, I know the person who wrote that song. I hired her. How cool is that? She works at my school. Yeah, I know. Ben's just realising it too. Yeah, Abby, how cool. Yeah, I know, yes. So awesome. Go Brisbane. Anyway, in that song it says, for how good the Lord is, it says this lyrics, it says, I've seen the giants that you've slain. It's talking about God, right? I've seen the giants that you've slain, all the wars you've won on my behalf. I'll tell these stories to my kids. You hear that? That pathway for you to walk towards reconciliation is going to be hard. And I said, you've got to be brave enough to go first. I was kind of tricking you, because you don't have to go first. Someone else already went first. God went first. So you're going second, actually, because God has already walked way back. And you just got to follow that way back, just like he walked that way back. And you make it easier for the person that you need to reconcile with to follow you along too. Because that, at the end of that road might be a beach of beauty, right? It says, I've seen the giants that you've slain, all the wars you've won on my behalf. I'll tell these stories to my kids. I'll follow in the footsteps of the God of the universe who has walked a path to reconciliation for us. I don't have to go first. I get to go second. It also says, You've been with me through it all, through the fire and the storm. So God's not just going ahead of you. This is a great thing about being God. He can be in two places at once. So he can go ahead of you to follow behind. He says he also goes with you through it all. Because when I told you all those things about how you need to rejoice with those who you can't stand, and you've got to mourn with that person who hurt you, God is promising that he has done that for you already, and you can follow in his path. And he is promising that he will walk with you while you try and do that to the best that you can. You are not alone. That's the good thing about God. You are not alone. And so to recognize and remember how not alone we are going to do a ritual called the Lord's Supper. It's a bit of a weird one. If you're not grown up in church well, I just want to quickly make sure you understand. It's not magic. Special juice doesn't give you powers, though I wish it did. Biscuits or bread or whatever we've got today is not going to make you all healed just because some biscuit has some magic thing we sprinkle on it before you can't know it. It's a thing called symbolism. It's symbolic. Because we know that Jesus walked that path for us to reconciliation. But knowing is sometimes not enough. Sometimes we need to remember. I don't know what it is about food, but food helps me remember. So Jesus said, you should have this meal regularly, and when you do so, we should remember him. So the red juice simply symbolises the blood that he shed on our behalf. The bread symbolises his body that was broken for us. And as you eat and drink of it today, line up and you get some, come back to your seats. When you get back to your seat, here's what I'd love for you to do. I would like for you to try and take a moment and to think about that person in your life that you're not reconciled with. That person that you need to repair that relationship with. And I want you to take a moment to see that person how God sees them. I want you to pray in your head something along the lines of, God, may I see this person as you see this person. That God, you are not angry with them. You are not mad at them. Sin breaks your heart and you want to see him. May I, as you have done that for me, see them that way too. Something like that. Does that kind of make sense? We can't control the outcome. We cannot control if the relationship will be reassembled. But this way, know at least this. You will be walking in the footsteps of Jesus, and that is good enough for me. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, the quality of our relationships acts as a cap to how joyful and happy we feel we can be. And right now, some of us in this room in particular, we're feeling like there is a relationship that is capping us, that is stopping us having the true rest and joy that we know we can have. God, I pray we'll be brave enough to feel the weight of that person's soul on our hearts right now, and we'll be brave enough to see them how you see them. God, as we take this juice, as we take this bread, may we once again remember what you did for us, how you made a way for us, how you slayed the giants for us, how you walk beside us. And then may we just try to empathise in that special way that humans can, where we put that onto someone else so I see how God sees them and how God died for them and God wants to make a way for them too. These things we pray. Amen.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did and you want more Lifepoint content, subscribe to our channel right now. Or if you're in the area around Moreton Bay or Rothwell, head to our service. Sunday, we'd love to see you there. lifepoint.org.au for all the details. We'll see you soon.